You probably don't remember the first time you were programmed to believe in money. Maybe it was a moment in a film, a boy given a crisp 6 stacks bill to buy a can of paint for $3. A simple exchange. A logical system. But that scene was a spell. It wasn't just teaching you how currency works. It was quietly planting the idea that money is mechanical, fixed, rational, like a machine that only runs if you push hard enough. That's the trap. And it's the trap you've been living in ever since. You didn't click on this by accident. Something in you knows the system is off. Because money isn't digits, and it's not effort. It's not a reward for pain. It's energy. Right now, it's either flowing to you or fleeing from you. And the reason has nothing to do with your job, your work ethic, or your luck. It has to do with one thing: your frequency. Your energy field is either tuned into wealth or tuned into lack. And whatever you're tuned into, that's what reality delivers. Here's what they never taught you. Money does not respond to logic. It responds to energy. You can work 18-hour days, hold 3 degrees, and want success more than anything. But if your frequency whispers, "I don't have enough," the universe will echo that exactly. Every bill, every dry season, every lost opportunity is just a mirror. And most of us are trapped in a loop, not because we're broken, but because we're running someone else's code. Our parents' stress, our school's survival scripts, a system that made fear feel normal. The truth: money isn't earned, it's allowed. That's the part no one wants to say out loud. Because if it's allowed, then you have to face what's really been stopping it: your subconscious. That hidden voice that says, "I'm not safe with wealth." The belief that says, "If I rise too fast, I'll fall." These aren't thoughts, they're programming. Old, inherited, unexamined. But they still run your life like invisible commands. And until they're cleared, no strategy will stick. Think about it. If money were purely about work, the hardest workers would be the richest people on earth. But they're not, because it's not about the labor, it's about the alignment. Wealth flows to those whose field is open, who expect abundance like breath. If that sounds unrealistic, it's because you've been hypnotized, programmed to believe that suffering is a virtue and wealth is a reward for pain. But that's not truth, that's obedience. This is the moment everything starts to change. Because you're waking up, you're starting to remember that you weren't born for lack. You weren't born to chase scraps in a system that only honors exhaustion. You were born to flow with confidence, with ease, with purpose. And if you're ready to flip the entire wealth game in your favor, type this now. I am rich, not to wish it, but to anchor it. Because the moment you claim it, the field starts listening. Before you ever held $1 in your hand, you already had a blueprint. Not one you wrote, but one that was written for you. A silent architecture, built from the way your parents spoke about money. How tight the air felt when rent was due. How often you heard, "We can't afford that." These weren't just words, they were codes. Emotional frequencies etched into your body long before your conscious mind could reject them. And those codes? They're still running your financial life now. It's why abundance feels foreign. Why you get close to more, then sabotage it. Why a part of you believes that too much will either corrupt you or cost you something sacred. It's not because you're irrational, it's because your nervous system was wired for survival, not overflow. Your subconscious isn't loyal to your goals. It's loyal to your programming. And until you rewrite that, it will protect you from everything you say you want, because it believes safety lives in staying small. This is why people can make more money and still feel broke. It's why the raise comes and the anxiety doesn't leave, because the income changed, but the blueprint didn't. Imagine trying to fill a cup that has a crack at the bottom. No matter how much you pour in, it leaks. That's what happens when you try to earn more without shifting the beliefs that run underneath. The leak isn't in your paycheck. It's in your perception of what you're allowed to hold. Money is a mirror, not a master. It will reflect your dominant beliefs, not your effort, not your dreams, but your baseline. And here's what makes it powerful. Once you change that baseline, reality has no choice but to catch up. The problem is, most people never do. They stay loyal to scarcity because it feels familiar, safe, honest. But what they're really doing is obeying a script they never wrote, a system that made lack feel noble and wealth feel dangerous. And yet, money is neutral. It doesn't care if you're kind or cruel, generous or greedy. It simply responds. It amplifies what already exists. That's why it scares people, because deep down, they know money won't fix them. It will reveal them. And if you've been taught to fear what that revelation will expose, you'll keep pushing it away. Not with words, with energy. And the universe will oblige, not out of cruelty, but out of coherence. But you're not bound to that script. You can rewrite the code. You can upgrade your inner world so it finally matches the life you want to build. And that begins by understanding how this belief system was designed. Not by nature, not by spirit, but by control. In the next section, we're going to expose how money was never meant to enslave you. It was meant to flow through you, and why it stopped doing that the moment it became a system of obedience instead of circulation. Money was never meant to be static. It was born to move, to circulate, to flow like water through the world, exchanging value, creating opportunity, energizing creation. That's why it's called currency, from the Latin curre, meaning to run, to move, to flow. But somewhere along the line, that flow got hijacked, frozen, trapped inside vaults and systems and spreadsheets that pretend to protect you, but really just keep your spirit on a leash. And the moment money stopped moving, we stopped breathing. We were told to save, hoard, cling, just in case. That wasn't financial wisdom, it was spiritual fear. And fear blocks the current. It shuts down the very field through which abundance travels. When you clutch money out of panic, you're not protecting your future. You're casting a frequency spell. You're telling the universe, I don't trust the flow. I don't believe more is coming. And the universe, always faithful, mirrors back. No flow, no more. Debt wasn't an accident. It was a design. You were told to get an education to succeed. But what you really inherited was decades of repayment. You were told to get a job for security, but what you really accepted was a slow drain on your soul in exchange for barely enough. And all the while, you believed you were free. But you weren't. You were inside a cage built from collective belief, a structure that looks like money, but feels like control. And here's the brutal truth. It was never the money that enslaved you. It was how they programmed you to feel about it. The idea that you had to suffer to earn it, that rest made you lazy, that desiring more made you greedy, that to be good, you had to be broke, quiet, and grateful for crumbs. That programming didn't just shape your choices, it shaped your frequency. And until you cleanse it, you'll keep circling scarcity, no matter how much you earn. They don't want you to know this. Because once you remember that money is energy, you stop chasing it, and it starts flowing to you, not because you're hustling harder, but because your field is finally open, because the shackles have fallen off, because your beliefs have been restored to truth. And when you walk in that energy, everything around you recalibrates. People, opportunities, income, all of it adjusts to match the new signal you're broadcasting. This isn't a theory. It's a law. Energy seeks coherence. If you broadcast lack, it sends more lack. If you broadcast trust, it opens the gates. And if you broadcast overflow, not from your mouth, but from your body, it delivers wealth like it's oxygen, effortless, constant. I'm going to show you how to broadcast that signal. But first, we need to go deeper into the lie, the one they never wanted you to question. The lie that says your worth is tied to your productivity. From the moment you could walk, you were taught that your value depended on your output. Be a good student. Do your chores. Get good grades. Follow the rules. And in exchange, approval, praise, safety. That was your first transaction, not with money, but with worth. You learned early that to receive, you must perform. That love was conditional. That rest was earned only after you'd proven your usefulness. And that belief, it didn't stay in childhood. It followed you into your bank account. Now, when money enters your life, it comes with tension. You feel guilt when you spend. You feel unworthy when you receive. You downplay your success. You reject help. You undercharge. Not because you want to, but because some part of you still believes you haven't earned it yet. This is the great lie that you must struggle to deserve. But what if struggle isn't sacred? What if suffering isn't a requirement for abundance? What if it's just an outdated spell that you were hypnotized into repeating? Think of the man who works 60-hour weeks and still lives paycheck to paycheck. He's not weak. He's not lazy. He's carrying ancestral codes. Codes that say, if I stop grinding, I lose everything. But grinding didn't make him rich. It made him exhausted. And that exhaustion has a frequency. It says, I'm surviving. So the universe sends more survival. Not because it's cruel, but because it's coherent. The external must match the internal. It has no choice. Let me introduce you to someone you already know. His name is Eric. He's 49. A self-employed plumber. Always on time. Always honest. Always underpaid. When pipes burst at 3 a.m., he's the guy they call. And yet, every month he's barely making it. Why? Because Eric's not just broke financially, he's bankrupt energetically. He believes asking for more is selfish, that success will make him arrogant, that raising his rates will push people away. So he shrinks. He calls it humility, but it's not. It's fear dressed as virtue. Eric was never taught that money is energy. He was taught it's punishment, something you earn by bleeding, by crawling, by being good. And every time he starts to get ahead, a bill, a breakdown, a setback. He thinks it's bad luck, but it's not. It's his nervous system pulling him back to the baseline it believes is safe. This is how powerful subconscious programming is. It will reject peace if peace wasn't part of the original code. But here's the beauty of this moment. You are not Eric, but you carry the same spells. And now you see them, you feel them. And what you see, you can change. Eric's story doesn't have to be yours. Because the moment a pattern becomes conscious, it begins to lose its power. You weren't born with a scarcity mindset. You inherited it. But you don't have to pass it on. In the next chapter, we'll break the inherited beliefs at the root and start rebuilding the wealth frequency you were always meant to carry. Scarcity doesn't start in adulthood. It begins in whispers, in glances, in half-sentences spoken around the dinner table. We can't afford that. Be grateful for what you have. Money doesn't grow on trees. These aren't just casual phrases. They're spiritual contracts. Every time you heard them, a part of your subconscious signed an agreement. Wanting more is wrong. Having more is dangerous. Needing more makes you greedy. And so your nervous system became fluent in fear, fluent in lack. By the time you turned 7, your financial frequency was already encoded, not based on truth, not based on universal law, but on fear passed down through generations. You didn't learn about wealth in school. You learned how to obey, how to trade time for approval, how to memorize and repeat and conform. They didn't teach you about energy. They didn't teach you how to receive. They taught you how to fit into a system designed to feed off your labor, not your alignment. And religion, in many cases, reinforced the scarcity contract. The love of money is the root of all evil. Blessed are the poor. You cannot serve both God and money. These ideas, repeated often enough, don't just shape your mind. They shape your feel. You begin to believe that to be spiritual, you must reject wealth. That to be pure, you must struggle. That to be holy, you must stay small. But here's the truth. Money doesn't corrupt. It amplifies. And when given to the aligned, it heals. The system benefits from you believing otherwise. Because broke people are easier to control, easier to manipulate, easier to convince that they need to keep grinding, keep pleasing, keep shrinking to survive. But you weren't born to survive. You were born to expand. And anything that tells you otherwise, whether it's a belief, a person, or a voice in your head, is not your truth. It's borrowed fear, and it's time to return it. Think back to the times you got close to abundance and flinched. The deal fell through. The bill came early. The engine broke. You called it bad luck. But it wasn't. It was conditioning. A nervous system that was wired to expect collapse, that braces for pain when things get good, that pushes away blessings before they can fully arrive. This isn't failure, it's trauma. And trauma doesn't respond to spreadsheets or hustle. It responds to safety. So, if you want wealth to stay, you have to feel safe with it. Not just intellectually, energetically, emotionally. You have to rewire your field so that when money enters, your body doesn't scream danger. Your breath doesn't tighten. Your palms don't sweat. Because if your frequency says, "I'm not safe with this," the universe listens. In the next phase, we'll explore how to rebuild safety inside your system so that wealth isn't just attracted, but received and held. Wealth doesn't destroy people. Insecurity does. When someone hasn't built the energetic capacity to hold what they asked for, it shatters them. This is why lottery winners go broke, why celebrities spiral, why athletes earning millions end up with nothing. They didn't just lose their money. Their frequency couldn't hold it. Their subconscious identity still screamed, "I'm not worthy of this. I don't know how to be safe here." So the energy responded in kind, not to punish, but to reflect. This principle isn't new. In ancient Kabbalah, they spoke of vessels, containers that hold light. If the vessel is too small, too cracked, too unstable, the light doesn't bless it. It breaks it. This is spiritual engineering. Money is a form of light. If your energetic vessel is weak, afraid, or built on shame, that light will expose every fracture. Not out of cruelty, but out of truth. Energy always reveals, always amplifies, always reflects. So if you want to experience overflow, you have to prepare your field to hold overflow. That means healing the cracks, expanding the container, learning to sit with abundance without guilt, shame, or fear. This isn't just about making more. It's about becoming the version of you who doesn't sabotage more, who doesn't shrink when praised, who doesn't flinch when compensated fully, who doesn't brace for loss the moment joy arrives. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. You've probably already had moments of breakthrough and pushed them away, not because you didn't want them, but because they didn't match the self-image you were still holding. The subconscious identity that says, "I'm the one who struggles," or "I'm not like those people who have money." That identity has power. It becomes the frequency you emit, and what you emit, you attract. Your job now is to become energetically congruent with the life you say you want. Not by faking it, not by forcing it, but by stabilizing in it, breathing into it, rehearsing it until your nervous system recognizes it as familiar, not foreign, until the version of you who lives in peace, who receives with ease, who holds wealth with grace, becomes not a dream, but your default. So let's begin that recalibration. Not with affirmations alone, but with rituals that speak to the subconscious in its own language, repetition, vibration, emotion. In the next segment, I'll walk you through the daily energetic practices that begin rewiring your frequency in real time. Because wealth is not waiting, it's listening. And your signal is the invitation. You can't think your way into a new frequency. You have to live it, breathe it, feel it in your bones before it ever shows up in your bank. Because your subconscious doesn't understand logic. It understands energy, and energy responds to repetition. Not repetition of words, but of emotion, of intention, of presence. That's why the most powerful wealth tools are not budgets or spreadsheets, they're rituals. Subtle actions that send loud signals into the field. I am ready. Let's start with your mornings. Before the world enters your mind, before the phone, the notifications, the noise, you begin with reclamation. Silence, breath, a single command said aloud with clarity and conviction. I call my energy back. I seal all open loops. I am safe to receive. You say it like you mean it. Not because it's magic, but because it's programming. You are giving your subconscious a new directive, and it will listen if you stay consistent. Then you move with value. Every step, every choice, becomes a reflection of the worth you're stepping into. You raise your rates. You say no to what drains you. You speak like a man who knows his energy is currency, because it is. You stop apologizing for your power. You stop asking for permission to rise. You walk like wealth is your baseline, not your reward. This is alignment in motion, and motion is how the frequency locks in. Now let's talk language. No more phrases like I can't afford it or I hope it works out. That's scarcity dressed in casual speech. Instead, you replace them with declarations that signal trust. Wealth is finding me now. Everything I give returns multiplied. My value increases daily. Even if you don't believe it at first, say it. Because the subconscious doesn't know the difference between repetition and reality. It will believe whatever you prove consistent. Your space matters too. Your environment is a mirror. If your room is chaotic, your energy is leaking. So, clean it. Clear it. Burn something sacred. Make space for abundance. Literally. You're not just decorating. You're creating a magnetic field. One that says, I'm already in the vibration. Because wealth isn't attracted to desperation. It's attracted to sovereignty, to stillness, to clarity. You prepare your world for what you expect to arrive. And when you do that, it shows up. Finally, before sleep, you plant the new code. No distractions. Just you, breath, and presence. You say, I did enough. I trust the process. I receive while I rest. Then you imagine yourself already in the life. Not someday, but now. Not watching it happen, living in it, feeling it. This is the portal. Because sleep is where the subconscious listens most. And what you fall asleep feeling, you begin waking up inside of. In the next section, I'll show you how to build wealth, not by forcing it, but by preparing for it, like it's already yours. Most people never feel wealthy. Not because they don't have enough, but because they don't know how to see it. They define wealth too narrowly, too literally. They look for numbers on a screen, bills in a wallet, digits in a banking app. But that's the final form of abundance, the densest layer. The truth is, wealth arrives in subtle frequencies before it ever becomes dollars. And if you can't see those signals, you're energetically rejecting the very thing you say you want. Wealth shows up as ease, as unexpected grace, as a canceled meeting that gives you peace, a delay that saves you from something unseen, a stranger who helps without asking, a conversation that shifts your entire trajectory. These are forms of currency. If you don't recognize them, you miss the deposits. And the universe stops sending what you don't acknowledge. This is the deeper poverty, blindness to invisible abundance. And it's what keeps people stuck in the illusion of lack. Here's the law. What you recognize expands. What you ignore contracts. So if you want more to flow, start by honoring what's already arriving. That doesn't mean fake gratitude. It means attunement, awareness. Noticing the small blessings that signal alignment, because energy responds to attention. And when your attention says, I see the flow amplifies. But when your attention says, nothing is working, the universe closes the valve. not to punish, but to match your perception. Think of your energy like a radio dial. If you're tuned to the channel of not enough, then even when wealth arrives, you won't hear it. You'll filter it out, miss it, block it. That's why you must shift your internal signal, not just with affirmations, but with vision, with ritual, with physical anchors that remind your subconscious what's real. Because your nervous system doesn't care about your goals. It responds to what feels familiar, and your job is to make overflow feel familiar. Start with a simple inventory. Each night, write down 3 non-monetary blessings that saved you time, energy, or stress. A favor, a solution, a redirection. Anything that made your path smoother. This isn't spiritual fluff. It's energetic bookkeeping. You are training your subconscious to notice wealth in all its forms. Not just paper, but peace. Not just coins, but clarity. And the more you recognize, the more your field begins to match the vibration of prosperity. Because here's what no one teaches. The universe doesn't pay in dollars first. It pays in signals, in protection, in alignment, in presence. And when you receive that, with open arms, the money follows, naturally, inevitably, and without effort. In the next phase, I'll walk you through 3 powerful physical rituals that reprogram your energy field and unlock the wealth circuit within you. So the abundance you attract doesn't just come, it stays. There are 3 physical rituals that send a signal louder than any affirmation. They don't just shift your mindset, they shift your frequency. Because your subconscious responds to repetition, emotion, and action. These rituals are anchors. When done consistently, they tell the field, I trust the flow, I am safe to receive. I am no longer in lack. They're not about superstition. They're about coherence. Let's begin with the first, the circulation spell. Money that doesn't move becomes dead weight. And when you hoard it from fear, you stop the current. The circulation spell reactivates the current instantly. It's simple, give, anonymously. It can be as small as $5, a tip to someone unseen, a coffee for the next person in line, a bill slipped into a stranger's cart. But don't just give. Attach a frequency. As you release it, say in your mind, this proves I trust the flow. What I give returns multiplied. That declaration alone changes everything. Not because the amount matters, but because your signal does. Now the second ritual, the receipt rewrite. Most people feel guilt when they spend. Tightness. Fear. That emotion is a spell. One that programs your subconscious to believe that money leaving equals danger. So here's how to shift it. Take a receipt from a joyful purchase, not survival spending, but something that lit you up. On the back, write, money returns to me multiplied with ease. Fold it. Keep it in your wallet. Let it be your daily reminder. I am the source, not the system. The third ritual is the overflow envelope. Most people only use money 2 ways. They spend and feel guilt, or they save and feel fear. The overflow envelope introduces a new frequency, safety beyond survival. Every time you receive money, any amount, take 5 to 10%, and place it in a dedicated envelope labeled overflow. You don't touch it. You don't save it for emergencies. You let it build. Why? Because this is evidence. Evidence that you're not just surviving, you're expanding, you're preparing for more. These rituals aren't cute habits. They are energetic technologies. They rewire your nervous system. They teach your subconscious that wealth is safe, natural, and expected. And when your body starts to believe that, the universe responds fast. Because it always wanted to bless you. It just needed your permission, your signal, your alignment. Not someday. Now, you don't have to wait for a sign. You don't have to beg or chase. You just have to become the kind of person who holds wealth without flinching. And in the final chapter, we're going to return to the source, to the one law that governs it all. The law that mystics like Neville Goddard and Ernest Holmes knew was more powerful than hustle, strategy, or even action. The law of assumption, the law of self, the law that says you do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. You don't attract what you chase. You don't attract what you wish for. You attract what you assume. That was the core of Neville Goddard's teaching, and it remains the most uncomfortable truth in the world of wealth, because it puts everything back in your hand, not in the hands of chance, luck, or divine favoritism, but in your identity, who you believe yourself to be, in the silence of your own mind. Your world is not created by effort. It's shaped by assumption, persistent, unconscious, and magnetic. Neville didn't say to visualize your dream life as something coming. He said to feel it as if it's already here, not because you're pretending, but because you're commanding, because your imagination isn't fantasy, it's blueprint, it's divine architecture. When you assume the wish fulfilled, when you fall asleep in the feeling of already being abundant, your subconscious accepts that version of reality as truth. And then your outer world begins to shift, not in theory but in form. Ernest Holmes called this the law of mind in action, that whatever belief you impress upon the universal intelligence through feeling, repetition, and identity must become reality. Not because the universe is judging you, but because it's mirroring you. If you believe wealth is coming someday, that day never arrives. If you believe you're already the man who receives, holds, and multiplies wealth, then reality is simply catching up to who you've already become. This is why most people fail to manifest. They affirm from lack, they visualize from doubt, they script goals, but never shift identity. And the universe responds to who you are, not who you say you want to be. That's why you must persist. Not for days, but until the outer catches up to the inner. Until your nervous system relaxes in the energy of wealth. Until your body believes what your mind has known all along. You were never separate from abundance. You were simply out of sync. So here is your final challenge. For the next 7 days, live as if it's already done. Walk as if you've already received. Speak as if you are already the man who commands flow. Breathe like you've never worried about money. Sleep like you're funded by the infinite. Act in alignment with your future, not your fears. Because the field is listening, and it responds not to your hope, but to your embodiment. If this message hit your spirit, if it broke a pattern or woke something ancient in you, then anchor it right now. Comment below, "I am rich," not as a request, but as a declaration. Like this video, so the algorithm reflects what you're finally ready to receive. Subscribe for more transmissions like this. And if you want access to the deeper tools I don't share anywhere else, join the newsletter below. Your upgrade begins now, and this time, it's